I enjoy this a lot. Outside of just talking about the chapters, when I do the chapter review early and go into the comment section, you guys in the comments, you leave the constructive comments, I guess. It helps me for even the Viz review, because even things that I missed or things I could look at differently, it opens my eyes. So when I read the Viz, it's always a better experience. And I felt that with this chapter. That initial moment with Kinemon in which they're confronting him about what he did, that was actually pretty touching. I'm not gonna lie, like seeing Kinemon talk about, the comfort that they provided, saying that, it doesn't matter. We served Odin together. We're going to die together. For a moment, I thought about the flashback, right? And everything they had been through together. And in the midst of everything, right? With Kanjuro betraying them, Odin dying, Denjiro disappearing, they're sticking together. And they're sticking together not only because of Odin, but because of the bonds they've created. So that moment, I'm not sure why, but it hit me a bit differently due to the Viz. So of course I still think it could have been better, but I don't know, something about this moment, it struck a chord. I mentioned this before, but Kanjuro, I like him a lot. and in this I like him even more, in which he addressed Kawamatsu by saying fishman. Like at this point, Kanjuro is addressing them as if he doesn't even know them. Like he's a true villain in this story, and it is beautiful. Like the dialogue parts in the official is even better than with the scans. I promise you, it's great. Something I didn't even notice when he drew the crane or that bird, it's so well drawn. There are feathers falling off of this thing. And Kinemon says, look how smoothly that bird flies, because Kinemon is getting flashbacks now to Reunification, right? And the tiger to climb up Zoe. So he's like, what are you doing? Like, this is amazing. You've never showed us anything like this. It's like somebody was working for you and you asked them to build a gate, and the gate was terrible. And now they're working for the other construction company. The gate they build is perfect. And you're asking them, like, why did you do us like this? And of course, for Kanjuro, the answer is, I'm a Kurozumi. I was always just playing a role. In the midst of this tragedy, because I think that's what it is, of course, there's some comedy in there because he's really concerned as to how Kanjuro could do them like this. In the chapter as well, something that people, talked about, and this is why it's good to talk about both versions, because there are days to sit with it and just consume conversation, how people feel about these things. So one of the things people were complaining about was, well, the major complaint from the chapter was how Kanjuro got away. And I've seen people who are diehard One Piece fans say that they didn't enjoy how Kanjuro got away. It felt a bit empty because of the powerhouses around him. They feel like the Straw Hats have grown to the point where nobody should ever get away from them, with Zoro there, Sanji, Luffy, and of course he had Law and other people there that could apprehend Kanjuro. But there's an angle I want to present, right? In the Viz, actually, there's different jargon. There's actually different language used here. When Sanji goes after Momonosuke, which is logical, that's what you do. Then Kinemon tells him to turn back. He says that, turn back, Sanji, I have a bad feeling about this. So the first question I have is, like, why would you tell him that? That's Lord Momonosuke. That's technically the leader of the forces. Why would you tell him to turn back? He says he has a bad feeling about this, but I think it goes a bit deeper because remember what Kinemon just experienced. Like, everything just flashed before his eyes because he made the wrong decision or he interpreted something the wrong way. So for him right now, he is super cautious about everything. And now Kanjuro is drawing better than they've ever seen before. And now there's a black cloud out of nowhere. I think that's logical for him to say, let's wait and see. You really don't want to risk anyone else getting hurt. And then something they kind of reiterated in the chapter was that they want you to be desperate and go after Momonosuke and kind of throw the alliance off kilter. So Kinemon, I think, made a good judgment decision there by telling Sanji to turn back, because of course then it turned into the raining arrows of ink. So actually a good decision. Yes, I still feel like Kanjuro could have been captured, but this is more so a moment for Momonosuke, where he comes to the realization that he's not his father, and then an opportunity for some growth, some character growth and legitimate growth for him as a person. And this goes back to Luffy's and Momonosuke's, their initial meeting, showing how much growth Momonosuke has gone through. And Luffy not going after him is somehow adhering to Momonosuke's wishes, but almost as if he's looking at him like a proud father. In a roundabout way, I'm sure Luffy sees a bit of himself in Momonosuke. Of course, Luffy was never that much of a crybaby. I mean, he used to cry, but he cried when Shanks lost his arm. So I think for Luffy, Momonosuke growing up and finding himself. Because for a while, Luffy, he was just trying to be a part of Shanks' crew. He wanted to mimic Shanks and be like Shanks. He still does that indirectly, even if he doesn't notice it sometimes. And the ideals that Shanks has drilled into him, he mimics that and he copies that. He's instilled it into his own crew. But Luffy got to a point where he said, I don't want to be a part of your crew anymore. I'm going to establish my own crew to be even better than yours. So for Momonosuke, he said, I'm not my father. And I know that. And now this is Momonosuke's time, which, normally takes a longer time. This is pretty young and pretty early for someone like Momonosuke at his age, in which he's trying to find himself as a man and he's still a boy. So yes, it feels a bit contrived, but that was the purpose of this moment. I've read this somewhere before where the purpose should never outweigh the narrative, where you can tell me the purpose of something, but if narratively it doesn't flow, then it takes away from the purpose, right? So in this situation, for some people, they understand what was meant to be conveyed there, but it doesn't hit the same because how it flowed, the sequence of events, it took them out of the story a little bit, which is a fair criticism. Again, comedy in this chapter where Luffy basically said, Momonosuke, you're great, you're becoming a man. But then he called him a cowardly dumb brat. And then the people of the Alliance are like, who is that guy? Cut him in two. And Kinemon says here they will not take Momonosuke's life. So I'm just not sure how he knows that for certain. Why will they not take his life? Kaido threw him into the fire and said that would be the end of the Kozuki. So at this point, would they hold him hostage to lure them in? Maybe that's what Kinemon is hoping for, and that's why they didn't go as hard to capture him. I don't buy that at all. But he says they won't hurt him, which means that obviously they're not going to hurt him. But I was just curious, what did he mean by that? How did he come to that conclusion? Because the only thing I can think of is that they plan to use him for a hostage. I didn't mention the cannons that these ships that were retreating had and how the Alliance said, if things remain the way they are, all the ships will be sunk. The weapons, those are dope. They're long-range weapons that were of high precision that we got from Kaido's factory. So this leads into another conversation. I think this is a glimpse of what's to come, in which Oda did say he wanted more naval battles. So having these weapons, the person that shows up at the end, he's going to be critical for this battle. Because if they have a lot more of these, the Alliance won't even make it to the shore, right? To Onigashima. So in essence, my guy Jinbei is actually a lot more needed here than I thought, because they had no way, quote unquote, no way to take out these ships. And of course, for us, we know Luffy can go gear forth, take these ships out. But I wonder if at this point Luffy can go gear forth. Luffy had just used it. Was Luffy in a cooldown period? But for all those people that were talking about Luffy being stronger and showing gear forth in a better manner, how can you say both things? He's in a cooldown right now, but he's stronger in gear forth. I mean, gear forth poses a lot of issues for Luffy in general, but that could be an option here. I'm being more of an optimist here because I got genuine enjoyment and comedy just taking my time and reading this chapter today. Something that also made me laugh was when Law talked about how fishy it was that they ran off. Luffy's telling them they should get closer to the ships, and Kid says, sink all the samurai ships you want. See if I care, right? Where Kid is still in character, like, I don't care about the samurai. I'm going after Kaido. You can sink as many as you want. I do not care at all. So I saw someone say that Kid could have helped to save Momo. There's no chance that Kid was going to lift a finger to save Momo. Oda seems to be keeping him in the same role that we've been introduced to him as, so I expect him to maintain that, whereas we're working towards the same goal, but we're definitely not working together, which is, kind of bogus. But I think he wants to maintain a safe distance from the Straw Hats, the Heart Pirates, the Alliance, because he wants to do his own thing, but they're all doing the same thing. So I thought that was pretty funny. And as you should know now, Jinbei is back, and I have a video talking about like how Jinbei and what he brings to the crew in regards to everything outside of strength and why it's so significant that he's joining the crew here. Another talking point was people calling out Big Mom for her incompetence. That's something as well I'll be talking about this week, about just how important reputation is in One Piece. Jinbei joining the Straw Hats, I think the importance of that, I don't think it's quite understood, just how much of a big deal it is. So we'll talk about that, and a really good chapter, even if it's a transition chapter. I thought some parts were executed a bit poorly, but overall, I definitely got enjoyment from this chapter. So good stuff, no break next week. I'm excited. I'm not sure where we go from here. I did mention in my last review that it seemed like Oda was checking off boxes as far as like characters coming to Wano and different plot points to be wrapped up. So Nekomamushi and Marco, if he comes, that should be next week, but it can't be that telegraphed. There's no way. So we'll see what happens, but make sure to like the video and subscribe, guys. I appreciate your support. That goes a long way. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Follow me as well on twitch.tv/BragoDAce. We're streaming there tonight. Pirate Warriors 4. You can come check that out. But per usual, like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.